Good evening, class. Group 1 will be presenting on the implementation of COVID-19 vaccine and its view on the impact on personal liberty. Our group members are Miss Cheyenne, Miss Tiffany, Miss Georgia, Miss Amber, Miss Melanie, Miss Milvian, Miss Shanira, Miss Raquel, Miss Melissa, and Mr. Hezron. The coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is an infectious disease caused by the newly discovered coronavirus. During a public health emergency such as this pandemic, it's important to develop vaccines as quickly as possible. Hence, the Emergency Use Authorization EUA is granted, which is an alternative evaluation process in approving vaccines. In retrospect, a new vaccine would take about 5 to 10 years to be developed and tested. Belize's first batch of AstraZeneca vaccines were sourced through COVAX, which is a facility created by the World Health Organization to ensure that poor countries such as ours receive the vaccine. The research problem here is that due to the novelty of the vaccine, how will Belizeans feel about potential mandatory implementation of the COVID-19 vaccine on their personal liberty? Therefore, the significance of this study can be a learning and informative component in helping society implement a plan that not only improves the effectiveness of our fight against COVID-19, but also helps restore trust, accountability, and a sense of common purpose in our response to the pandemic. The aim of this study is to evaluate how an individual's personal liberty is viewed to be impacted by the potential mandatory implementation of the COVID-19 vaccine. The hypothesis. Belizeans will be reluctant to take the AstraZeneca vaccine due to their belief of it imposing on their personal liberty once it becomes mandated. The research questions are: 1. How is one's personal liberty being affected by the implementation of the AstraZeneca vaccine? 2. How do Belizeans perceive the potential mandatory implementation of these vaccines? And 3. Will Belizeans voluntarily comply with the potential implementation of the COVID-19 vaccine? I will now be discussing some terminologies which will be used in this research and their definitions. Personal liberty. This refers to whether people believe that their rights to freedom are violated. Implementation. This will refer to how Belizean authorities plan to issue the COVID-19 vaccine. Consent. This will refer to the willingness of Belizean adults aged 18 plus agreeing to receive COVID-19 vaccine. Perception refers to how Belizeans feel that they do not have a choice whether to accept or refuse receiving COVID-19 vaccine. The delimitations of this study is that the target population of adults 18 plus will be from the Belize City District. The sample size will be 260, which is based on the population of the Belize District. And an online closed-ended Likert scale survey will be conducted.
The scope. There has been studies into how the general public perceives and reacts to the COVID-19 vaccines. Studies can be used to determine the complex nature of the vaccine hesitancy as it impacts on personal liberty. In its entirety, the aim of this research is to see how the proposed mandatory introduction of the COVID-19 vaccine in Belize affects an individual personal liberty. Similarities found within the publications were that despite an increase in the research on attitudes and behavior toward the COVID-19 vaccines, scientists are concerned that the studies performed so far are inadequate to predict the dangers or side effects or even the effectiveness of this vaccine. Studies conducted by Seal, Saraski, Friedman, and Pog et al. Saw over 60% of the participants who were inclined to taking the vaccine or perceived that the vaccine is unnecessary. Despite majority of the participants being interested in taking the COVID-19 vaccine, according to studies conducted by Guliano and Shekar, it is troubling that healthcare professionals are hesitant in taking the vaccine until more information is available. Palm also concluded that the uncertainty of the effects of the COVID-19 vaccine had a predominant part in a person's perspective of the vaccine. Despite their lack of confidence in the vaccine, the majority of the participants in these studies agreed to receive the vaccine if given the opportunity. Significant differences in all the publications. The various research use advanced databases and instruments in the literature despite the fact that studies' approach address participants' willingness to take the vaccine. They failed to capture the nature of how the participants felt about taking the vaccine or whether they were in favor or against the vaccine. For example, the article by Giuliano et al. Found 29 studies using PubMed and Scopus scientific databases, whilst Fredman et al. And Saraski both use online surveys, and a PUG administered these surveys via email notification through the Qualtrics survey panel using an anonymous link. They all use different methods to collect their data. The gaps. There were a few areas that were not included in the lit review. One of those areas is that neither of the studies found were conducted within the Caribbean region or specifically to Belize. Instead, they were conducted in other regions. Most of the publications focused on attitudes of the vaccine in general rather than specifically to the attitude toward the COVID vaccine being mandatory and the effects it had while infringing on their personal liberty. Studies such as Shekar, Seal, and Luigi et al. Mostly use snowballing or convenience sampling, where a few other studies use quota sampling, which would have been the most accurate form of representation for the target population. Closing the gaps. According to WHO, 219 countries saw an estimated 117 million confirmed cases and 2.6 million deaths due to COVID-19. So far, research that has been conducted focuses on larger countries outside Central America and the Caribbean. Hence, this research closes the geographical gap. Studies such as Giuliano focus on attitudes in general towards vaccination being mandatory but not specifically to the COVID-19 vaccine being introduced. Thus, this research focused on assessing the effect of the COVID-19 vaccine introduction to see if rights are violated and to see if personal liberties are impacted.
The methodology. The study design is a non-experimental, causal comparative design with the target population of adults 20 years and older from an approximately 225,000 Belize district population. The subjects are working-class Belizean, and a non-probability quota sample was used with a 1-to-1 ratio, which made the total sample size of 260. The procedure used was that a pretest of the instrument was first conducted between 10 individuals to determine the reliability and validity of the instrument. Once completed, the HR and administrators for the different businesses were contacted via phone or by email in order to gain consent for the survey to be conducted at their place of business. Upon consent, the instrument was forwarded to the HR or the administrators, who in return forwarded it to their staff. Due to it being an online survey created in Google Forms, the response was automated. The data collection tool used was a closed-ended questionnaire designed by the researchers, divided into 3 sections, which included information on respondents' demographics, work-related questions, and respondents' perception. All ethical concerns were considered during this research, which includes the research was voluntary, it provided informed consent, no physical or mental risks were involved, privacy and anonymity, protection from deception, no data tampering, and acknowledgement of work from other authors.
The data collected in this study was from different business facilities within the Belize district. These business facilities are Belize Police Department, University of Belize, Lloyd Coffin Preschool, Belize Port Authority, Heritage Bank, Belize Bank, Treasury Department, Development Finance Center, Belize Healthcare Partners, Belize Medical Associates, Belize Electricity Limited, Belize Telemedia Limited, Unicomer Courts, Social Security Board, Belize Tax Service, and several departments at the Philip Wilson International Airport, such as aviation staff, customs and immigration, United Airlines, American Airlines, and Delta. The sample in this study is 196 working class Belizean, age 20 and over. An SPSS database was used to analyze the results, and ultimately a chi-square test of association was used to test the null hypothesis. The response rate of return. The aim of this study was to collect 260 responses with 130 females and 130 males. This number was derived from a statistical sample size formula with a 99% level of confidence and a plus minus 8% margin of error. The questionnaire response rate was at 91%. This is because there was a total of 237 total responses of the aim of 260. 75% of these responses were valid responses, which is 196 of the 260 aimed. These valid responses were individuals who met the criteria of being a working class Belizean or the age 20 and over. 16% of these responses were rejects. These rejected amount was due to either not meeting the criteria of the age, being 20 years and over, or not working. Also, rejects included those who had missing responses within their answers. Furthermore, to test the reliability of the instrument used in this study, a Cronbach alpha test was conducted. The result is 0.726. This indicates that there is consistency within the measurement tool. A Cronbach alpha test ranges between 0 and 1, with results closer to 1 being consistent. The results from the demographic section of the survey was that there was 48 males and 148 females. This shows that there is more female to male, which is approximately a 3-to-1 female to male ratio. This does not coincide with our original aim of a 1-to-1 female to male ratio. The age segment of the results states that 41 respondents were between the age of 20 to 30 and 76 were between the age of 31 to 40. This indicates that most of the individuals are between the age of 20 to 40. This age range is not within the direct effect of the COVID-19 disease. For the ethnicity, most of the respondents were Creole, showing a result of 93 individuals, and 17 individuals being Garifuna, where 6 individuals were East Indian, 5 were Mestizo, 23 were mixed, and 3 indicated other. These results was expected, being that Belize is considered to be a melting pot of ethnicity. The results for the education segment of the survey indicates that most of the respondents has a associate's degree, amounting to 95 individuals, and 64 having a bachelor's degree. This indicates that most of the individuals within this study have the ability to understand the effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. For the marital status segment, it can be seen that 107 respondents are either married or in a domestic relationship, which may have influence on their responses from their spouse. The employment segment shows that 192 of the individuals are employed, 3 of them are part-time, and 1 stated other. This goes in line with our employment criteria. Furthermore, the researchers conducted a cross-tabulation to determine how many of the frontline workers are female and how many are male. The results indicated that of the female participants, 52 of them are frontline workers. Of the male participants, 52.1 are frontline workers. This gives a total of 52% of the respondents being frontline workers. Furthermore, the researchers conducted a cross-tabulation to determine of the frontline workers whose employers requested that they take the vaccine. The results were, of the frontline workers, 54.9 stated that their employers requested that they take the vaccine. Also, 23.3% of the individuals who are not frontline workers indicated that their employers also requested that they take the vaccine, whereby 25% stated that it was not applicable. Therefore, more than half of the frontline workers were requested by their employers to take the vaccine. Furthermore, a frequency distribution was conducted to determine if mandating the vaccine is an infringement on personal liberty or if mandating of the vaccine will negatively affect the respondents' overall well-being. The results are 1 being strongly disagree to 5 being strongly agree. The results in figure 4 shows that 52.55% strongly agrees that mandating of the vaccine is an infringement on their personal liberty, whereby only a 5.1% indicated that they strongly disagreed. 15.31% also stated that they agreed. When added to those who strongly believe that the mandating of the vaccine is an infringement of their right, it can be seen that majority either agreed or strongly agreed. The results for mandating of the vaccine having a negative effect on the respondents' overall well-being, 13.78% stated that they strongly agreed, whereby 10.2% stated that they agreed. However, 40.82% felt unsure. Therefore, it can be seen that although majority of the respondents feel that mandating of the vaccine is an infringement on their personal liberty, they do not feel that it negatively affects their overall well-being. Furthermore, the measurement perception tool was grouped into two segments. The first half was grouped as information about the vaccine, while the second half was grouped by the perception of personal effects. In figure 1, it can be seen that the results were slightly skewed to the right, with a standard deviation being little less than 3. Therefore, majority of the individuals either feel that they do not have enough information about the vaccine or they do not trust the information given about the vaccine. In figure 2, it can be seen that the results are moderately symmetrical. This result shows that most of the respondents are unsure if the vaccine will personally affect them. The researchers also conducted a frequency distribution to determine the likelihood of the respondents to take the vaccine. It can be seen that most of the respondents strongly agrees that they will take the vaccine once become available, as opposed to about 50 individuals who said that they strongly disagree that they would take the vaccine once become available. Therefore, as can be seen previously in figure 4, where most of the respondents felt that mandating of the vaccine is an infringement of their personal rights, it can be seen that the respondents are likely to take the vaccine once become available. Lastly, a chi-square test of association was conducted to determine if mandating of the vaccine is an infringement on personal liberty. Note that the null hypothesis of this study is that the mandating of the vaccine is not perceived to be an infringement on personal liberty. However, the researchers in this study believe that the mandating of the vaccine is perceived to be an infringement on personal liberty. The results are that the p-value of 0.01 indicates that there is a statistical significant difference. This means that the researchers must fail to accept the null hypothesis. Therefore, the researchers' assumption that mandating of the vaccine is perceived to be an infringement on personal liberty can be corroborated.
In conclusion, the researchers' aim is to gain a better understanding of the research topic, implementation of COVID-19 vaccine and its effect on personal liberty. From data analysis, it was discovered that 39.8% of the respondents were asked to take the vaccine by their employers, with frontline employees accounting for 54.9% and non-frontline workers accounting for 23.3%, indicating that this mostly affects frontline workers. As a result, Belizeans will be reluctant to take the AstraZeneca vaccine if it is imposed on them, and they believe their personal liberty is being compromised. Over 30% of the respondents approved and another 40% were unsure. This is consistent with the finding of the literature review, which found that healthcare professionals who are deemed frontline workers are also among those who feel that mandating the vaccine would be an infringement to their rights. According to the researcher, Belizeans perceive the vaccine mandate as an intrusion on their personal freedom. But this does not seem to have a detrimental impact on their willingness to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Recommendations. Based on the findings and conclusions presented, employers can benefit from this research by not mandating that their employees be vaccinated and by providing educational seminars to assist in building employees' confidence on the efficiency of the vaccine. Substantial results reflect that majority of the participants, 47%, agreed to being vaccinated, regardless of 67.9% of them viewing it as an infringement on their personal liberty if made mandatory. Recommendation for further research. In addition, there are a range of gaps in our knowledge about public participation in research that would benefit from further research, including assessments to expand and evaluate the theory we've established here. One, further research can test if factors such as culture, ethnicity, religious beliefs, employment status, or education level influences the acceptance of the vaccine. 2. Future research can expand samples to focus on the entire country of Belize. 3. Future research can include non-working individuals in the study to get an overall perception of the vaccines. 4. The leadership style of business facilities should be investigated to see if there is any connection between these workplaces' leadership and people's perception of personal liberty restrictions if the COVID-19 vaccine becomes enforced. Limitations. The study has been limited in a number of ways. First, getting good response rates from the staff at various business facilities proved difficult. As a result, as the study progressed, the researchers added more facilities, reducing the risk of a poor sample while increasing the number of business facilities in the study. The study time frame was also a constraint in that the research only had 2 weeks to distribute the instrument and to collect the data, which made obtaining a reliable sample of 260 respondents difficult. Also, the study was aimed at collecting data from respondents within the Belize district alone, but due to those who travel inter-district for work, it is impossible to know whether all the respondents were from the Belize district, as there were no questions about where respondents live in the survey. Another drawback was that the researcher had to rely on HR and administrators in each business facility to disseminate the survey link in order for respondents to remain anonymous. However, it's possible that this had an effect on response rate as well. Figuring out who to contact from business facilities and obtaining their email address was also tedious and time-consuming. It was also noticed that for unexplained reasons, older respondents were hesitant to complete the survey. The terms of receiving a 1-to-1 female-male ratio were used due to the use of non-probability quota sampling, but this was actually a representation of the entire population of Belize rather than a representation of the working class population within the Belize district. Another drawback of the study was that it was only a survey of business facilities in the Belize district, so it cannot be generalized to all Belizeans.
Thank you, and this concludes our presentation for tonight.